It starts on October 19, 1899, where we see a ship named Cerberus, which had started its journey from England to New York City. On the ship, there was a girl named Maura Franklin, where a brain scientist has a dream that night that she is in a mental hospital where her father comes to visit her. Seeing her father, she cannot control herself. She screams that, as Prometheus, you are responsible for everything that has happened. At this time, Maura wakes up, actually before Cerberus. Another ship went on this road named Prometheus. 4 months ago, that ship suddenly disappeared with all its passengers. This news was a big event for the whole world because there were many big people on the Prometheus ship. Even though the dream that Maura had had was a dream, she felt that there was reality hidden somewhere in the dream. She did not remember much of her past. The day before, her brother had sent her a ticket from New York. He wanted Maura to go to New York to celebrate the New Year. There were about 1,500 passengers in this entire ship. However, everyone was divided into different categories. Some people were in the workers' class, some in the lower class, and some in the first class. Maura was traveling in the first class, and people of any other class could not enter the first class. There were a few other passengers, with Maura among them was a gay couple who were introducing themselves as brothers in front of everyone because they did not have freedom in society. There was also a new couple who seemed to be not happy with each other. There was also a Japanese girl whom her owner was taking to New York to sell. While everyone was having lunch, a boy named Crester came up from the lower class. The security guards got him, but he cried and said, "My sister's pregnant, she's sick, I need a doctor." Although there was a doctor here, but he did not want to go to the lower class. Maura is a doctor, so she goes with the boy and helps his pregnant sister. Then we see the couple Lucian and Killy, who are actually on their honeymoon, but the relationship is not good. Meanwhile, in the lower class, Maura sees some visions that she had seen before, but she cannot remember them. She's extremely nervous and she comes out of there. Just then, the captain of the ship, whose name is Ike, tells Maura that you're a first-class passenger, so you cannot go down. Actually, Captain Ike was always depressed because 2 years ago, his wife and child died due to one of his mistakes. Just then, one of the captain's men came and said, "We've received a signal from another ship." The captain went down and checked the signal and was surprised because this signal was coming from the Prometheus ship, which had suddenly disappeared 4 months ago. They were even more surprised that no one could survive at sea for 4 months without eating or drinking. It turned out that the Prometheus ship was only 7 hours away. They decided to go to Prometheus, so they changed all the routes and headed towards Prometheus with their ship, and they did not tell any of the passengers about this decision. Even the workers working there did not understand why the ship was going in that direction. Gradually, all the passengers learned that the ship had been diverted. Maura met Ike and said that she also wanted to go to Prometheus with them because it would be good to have a doctor with them. The captain agreed. Then the captain announces to everyone that they will go to Prometheus and rescue the survivors there. The passengers oppose his decision. However, the captain does not budge from his decision. Hearing this, Lucian gets nervous. His hands and feet start shaking, and he secretly drinks a medicine from Killy.
Then we see a worker named Alec. He was sitting in a place eating. Just then, Jerome comes there, who had secretly boarded the ship. Seeing him hungry, Alec gives him food. Then after a long journey, finally they reach the Prometheus. Now the captain and some of his companions go to the Prometheus ship in a small boat and enter it. When they go there, they see no sign of a single person. Although there were many passengers on the ship, not a single body is seen. The captain then goes to the control room, from where the signal was sent. But when he gets there, he is surprised because the signal sending machine itself is broken. Just then, Maura sees a green insect, a beetle on the ground, which keeps moving in one direction. Maura goes after the insect, after which the insect enters a cabin, which was closed from the outside. When they open the door, they see a little boy sitting there. He was silently looking at everyone. He had a small pyramid in his hand. No one understood anything. If all the nations were free, then how could this boy remain here? They brought the boy to their ship, but another man from the Prometheus ship sneaked into their ship. He also had the same green insect in his hand, the insect that Maura had followed to reach the boy. This man went and stayed in the cabin next to Maura, the boy who had been brought from the Prometheus ship. Maura was given the responsibility of seeing and hearing him. The next day, the man says his name is Daniel. Maura doesn't recognize him, but judging by the man's behavior, it seems that he knows Maura very well. Then Maura returns to her cabin. There she sees the boy sitting. She notices that the boy has an inverted pyramid mark on the side of his neck. It's exactly like the mark she saw in her brother's letter. With the letter, he sent her a ticket to New York. Mora then asks the boy a lot about the pyramid, but the boy doesn't say anything. In fact, he doesn't talk to anyone. In the engine room, Alec tells everyone that there's no sign of any people on the Prometheus ship. The workers here think maybe that boy is behind all the people disappearing. Maybe the boy is a werewolf. Then Ike comes and tells Alec how much coal is on their ship now. Then he goes to Mora and discusses with him. If there are no other passengers on the Prometheus, then who sent their signal? While thinking about these things, he suddenly hears his daughter's voice. He follows the voice. Downstairs, Crester's sister Greta wants to become a doctor after going to America. As Greta leaves, Angel from first class gives her cigarette case as a gift. Before Crester can understand anything, his older sister Tolip arrives there and tells him not to change his behavior. Meanwhile, Jerome goes to Lucien's room, where he checks some things and puts a medal on his table. Hearing the sound of Keeley coming, he hides under the battery. Then Keeley puts the medal inside the door and goes to the washroom, and Jerome escapes from there at this opportunity. Meanwhile, the captain follows the voice and reaches a room, where he sees his entire family. He hugs his eldest daughter, but then the whole room catches fire, and then he reaches another place where he sees the green beetle that he saw in Prometheus. While chasing the insect, he enters a tunnel. The tunnel ends right under his bed. He's very confused when he sees the secret tunnel under his bed. The tunnel door had a sign with a triangle and a line. The sign is all over the ship. It is also in the company's logo. It is also on the boy's neck and in the letter from Mora's brother, even under Keeley's ear. What does this sign mean? We will find out later. Captain Souza comes to Mora's room and grabs the boy and asks him about the Prometheus ship. Seeing Ike's behavior, Mora throws him out of the room and says that he can't think straight now and needs rest. Meanwhile, the ship's people catch Jerome, and a fierce fight starts between them. Daniel is seen releasing the green beetle he has in his possession into the lower class, and with the help of it, he brings Greta up. Daniel apologizes to Tara in advance. Maybe he is going to harm Greta. With this, all the compasses of the ship that help determine the direction are destroyed. Then the captain again makes an announcement in front of everyone that they want to tie the Prometheus ship to their ship and take it back to Europe. Hearing this, all the passengers get angry. Mrs. Wilson says that most of the passengers want you to continue your journey to New York. Meanwhile, several members of the ship want to go against the captain and sink the ghostly Prometheus ship. And someone on the ship is secretly messaging Sebastian with a triangle symbol. Meanwhile, the captain sees Greta's body on the ship. He thinks that the reason behind her death is Prometheus. They realize that there is a deep mystery behind everything. So before going back, only the captain and Mora go to the Prometheus ship again, where there is a tunnel under the bed of the room. However, when they go inside, they see no way to go. Rather, it is strangely surrounded by black tape on all sides. Meanwhile, since Mora is there, Daniel comes to the boy. Actually, Daniel knows the boy and has come here on a mission. Then the captain finds a list, which contains the names of the passengers who traveled on the Prometheus ship and who went missing. Mora's name was also on this list. The captain is surprised to see this. He begins to suspect Mora that Mora is hiding something. If he really left on the Prometheus 4 months ago, how did he come back alive? And why did he come on the same journey again? The captain does not tell Mora anything about this. However, they both return to the ship. There, the captain learns that the lower caste Lens and some of his members have mutinied because they had worked hard to raise money for this trip. On top of that, a girl has died here. They say that the one you brought from the Prometheus is accursed. She should be thrown into the sea. Mora doesn't want this, but no one listens to her. So Crester's mother finally throws the boy into the sea. Mora asks the captain for help, but the captain says, "You are a liar. You were on the Prometheus yourself." Mora cannot understand anything. However, this time the biggest problem is that this ship is stuck in one place. It is just wandering around the Prometheus ship. When everyone is lost in thought, suddenly there is a knocking sound from inside the cabin. And the next moment, the boy comes out, who was thrown into the sea a while ago. He had the small pyramid in his hand. He goes to Mora and Mora faints.
Now all the nations believe that this boy is cursed and trapped.
Now all the passengers on the ship are divided into two groups. One group is the captains who want to return to England, and the other group is the lower class who want to go to New York. Everyone is very excited. Even the pregnant girl who was treated by Mora at the beginning is undecided whether to join the captain's group because the other group is too violent. At this time, Mora regains consciousness. She learns that the boy has been held captive. She goes to free the boy, but everyone stands against her. They threaten to shoot her. However, when Mora goes to free the boy, suddenly someone opens fire. The bullet hits Mora. Daniel runs to save him, but here, time mysteriously stops, and the boy who was held frees himself and stands next to Mora. Now all time stops here, except for Mora and the boy. The boy takes Mora's hand and leads him outside. Then, taking him to a room, Mora asks him, "I don't understand anything. What is happening here? Why do you keep coming back?" The boy wrote on the paper, "I can't say anything because they are always watching and listening to us. You just have to follow me." Mora wants to know the answers to all the questions, so he started walking after the boy. The boy had a green beetle in his hand, the one that Daniel had last time, the one he left in the lower glass, and because of which someone died. This time, when the boy put the beetle on the ground, a portal opened. Mora went through that portal and reached a place in Mora's memory, in a different dimension, but he couldn't see that boy anywhere. Meanwhile, inside the ship, where time had stopped, it became normal again. And now a strange sound began to be heard in the ship, a kind of siren. The sound began to spread loudly throughout the ship. The captain noticed that Mora and the boy were no longer there. He saw Daniel and said, "I never saw you on the ship. You must have been with Mora and that boy." He grabbed Daniel, but just then he called the beat. "Now is not the time to fight each other. We need to know how to get out of here first." Meanwhile, the strange sound that spreads inside the ship hypnotizes all the passengers, and everyone starts going on the ship together and starts jumping into the sea one by one. Every person on the ship is killing themselves. Among them, Crestor also kills himself. Daniel is shocked to see all this. He runs down and he opens the portal in the same way with the green beetle he has and reaches the place where Mora reached. There he sees the boy. Mora goes inside the building. Daniel is very disappointed to see this action of the boy. However, the boy hoped that maybe now the memory of death will come back. Because before, they had not come this far. This time, they might succeed. But unfortunately, even after being brought here, his memory did not come back. Daniel now has to fix everything in time before the ship sinks. Meanwhile, to avoid being hypnotized, everyone ties themselves up in their rooms. Jerome guns Lucien, locks him up and ties himself up. Actually, Jerome and Lucien were friends. However, Lucien wanted to frame Jerome in an incident in escape on the ship. However, Jerome arrives in the ship. However, on the other hand, Daniel goes to the engine room and starts hacking the steam pressure machine with his mechanical device. If he does not fix everything in time, everything will restart again. Here it is known that Daniel can make anyone unconscious with the help of his device. Meanwhile, Mora reaches that building, which is the mental hospital of his dreams. She enters room number 101 and there she sees her father, whose name is Henry. Then Henry catches Mora again and gives her a black injection. It seems like these things happen to Mora again. That is, it has been repeated that if Mora does this, this will happen. All these things are written in advance. When Mora regains consciousness, she sees that she's in her room. She comes out of there. Then the captain asks her, where did that boy go? Mora tells her that the boy has a pyramid in his hand that can stop time. Mora also says that her father, Henry, might be controlling everything. In fact, her father was interested in learning about people's brains. That is how the human brain works. He was more interested in knowing everything. And Mora thinks that perhaps her father bought these ships so that he could experiment on the passengers on the ship. In fact, the most important thing in Mora's father's life was Mora's mother. But when Mora was born, her mother's mental condition started to deteriorate. Then he builds a mental hospital for his wife, from where Mora has now returned. Ike reveals here that he signed under the passenger list of the Prometheus. That is, he was the captain of the Prometheus ship. He does not understand anything about what is happening here. This time he sees the green beetle again. Then he follows the same process and goes to the tunnel under the captain's bed, and they reach straight to the captain's memory. That is, yes, this tunnel bit under the bed is the passengers' memories, especially their dark memories. Mora tells there is a tunnel like that under my bed as well. However, in front of them is now Ike's house where his wife and child died.
On the other hand, Daniel on the ship stops the strange sound that made everyone hypnotized. But now the situation is terrible. There were 1,500 people on this ship, but now only a few are alive. Everyone else has jumped into the sea and died. Meanwhile, Sebastian was looking for the boy, but he couldn't find him anywhere. On the other hand, Mora's father is seen. He's sitting in his room in a room, and the scene outside his window is seen, where there is a huge black pyramid, just like that small model which the boy had in his hand. And here next to this black pyramid, the world seems to be completely destroyed. Now, what place is this? Why are all the pyramids black? And why is everything dark here? Also, what is happening inside the ship? Why is it happening? All this will be cleared up at the end. Anyway, everyone in the control room discusses what they should do. In the meantime, their biggest problem is that the ship's engine has stopped. Their ship is standing in one place. What will happen now? Even from the top, his mother's words seem true, that the boy must be a cursed boy. In such a situation, everyone forgets about opposing the captain. Everyone is now willing to obey the captain. So the captain explains their work to everyone. Ika and Mora will go out to find the boy. Half of the people with Alec will go to restart the engine, and the rest will look for the survivors. Everyone notices that a strange kind of black material is coming out of their ship, which is gradually getting bigger. Daniel accidentally forbids anyone from touching it. Mora takes Ika to her memory with the help of the tunnel. Mora tells that this mental hospital was built by her father. Going inside, they see through the window that the walls inside the mental hospital are actually made of ship materials. That is, this fake reality or pocket dimension is actually located inside the ship. Meanwhile, while searching for Sebastian, Wilson got curious and touched the black materials, due to which he started spreading the black materials all over his body. Meanwhile, Tobe entered a room and suddenly came to his past memory. Actually, Cresto was having an affair with his owner's son. Seeing this behavior of Cresto, he was going to shoot him. However, the bullet missed Cresto's eye. Tobe was present at that time. Here the owner caught Tobe and knocked him unconscious and forced him with force in front of everyone. As soon as he regained consciousness, Tobe killed him. That is, this man's child in Tobe's stomach. Many passengers in the ship went to the engine room and started working. And finally, they started the engine, and the two people in the control room were very happy. But who will run the ship now? They have no experience in running ships. On the other hand, Sebastian got the opportunity and teleported somewhere from the dining room cabinet. Actually, he came to meet Henry. Henry tells him that they have to find the child and the Black Pyramid no matter what. Here is a big twist. Actually, Mora is inside a simulation, inside a computer program. As Mora told the captain that her father bought the ship and experiments on the passengers, then maybe this is Henry's experiment, where he sends them into the simulation and experiments. And it turns out that the simulation runs for 8 days. After 8 days, everything will restart again. Everything will start from the beginning. This is the big mystery that we will find out at the end. Meanwhile, the black materials also start spreading in the mental hospital. That is when Daniel arrives. The two are very surprised to see Daniel because they came with the help of the portal. So what is Daniel doing here? The captain says you should know everything in advance. Come with me now. However, Daniel attacks the captain and teleports him to a different location. Daniel tries to convince him repeatedly that please try to remember your past. Daniel tells Mora that he's a husband. But Mora points a gun at Daniel. Daniel says you can't remember anything? We've been married for 12 years. Mora doesn't believe him. She thinks Daniel is a danger to her. She locks Daniel in a room and leaves from there herself. Coming out, she throws the gun in her hand with force, which hits a brick wall. That is when Mora finds out that the outside world is surrounded by fake displays. Mora is even more surprised to see this. Interestingly, Henry is watching all this through his monitor. In fact, there are many monitors installed on one wall of Henry's room, through which Mora's father Henry is keeping an eye on every place. This means that Henry knows everything about who is doing what and when.
Meanwhile, the captain is seen again coming out of a house in the jungle and returning to the Prometheus ship. That is, he goes back to the Prometheus ship again. And when he looks outside the Prometheus ship, he is shocked. There are not one, not two, but many ships exactly like the Prometheus ship lying abandoned. On the other hand, Mora returns to his ship, where only a few passengers are alive. A strong storm starts at sea and its waves rise on the ship. All the passengers panic and say, "Let's all go to the engine room." But Mora decides that he will find the captain. He searches the entire ship, but he does not find the captain anywhere. Finally, he enters the captain's room and enters the tunnel under the bed and reaches the captain's memory. But this time he does not find the captain, but finds the captain's dead wife, who attacks him and shouts at him, saying, "What are you doing here? How did you come to the captain's memory? Who are you?" Mora runs away from there in fear. Then she goes to Daniel's room because Daniel told her that he is her husband. And they have been married for 12 years. To verify this, Mora enters the secret place under Daniel's bed and enters his memories. When she gets inside, she enters the room, which seems very familiar to her. When she goes to the bedside, she sees many pictures of Daniel and him. And in those pictures, it can be seen that the little boy who never says anything is actually his son named Elliot. Meanwhile, everyone starts dying one by one. Lingi comes out chasing her mother's vision. Then while trying to save Lingi, Eilik falls into the water, Angel dies after being crushed by the iron, Lucian has a heart attack. Craster's parents, the creator, sacrifice their lives to please him and to save Top. Slowly, the entire ship began to fill with water. And even after searching the entire ship, they could not find any survivors. That's when they realized that their ship would soon enter a huge storm. There were only 4 people on their ship now. On the other hand, Daniel, who was trapped in room 1011, started looking for a way out. And finally, he opened the panels on the wall and entered the ship's wiring system. While passing through this maze, Daniel began to become the memories of all the passengers. And finally, he reached the memory of Moria. There was a grave in front of him. But the next moment, he saw that there was a room under it, in which Elliot was hiding. In fact, the two of them knew everything that was happening here. They knew that the whole place would be destroyed. They have been trying to remember Moria from the beginning, and listening to them, it was known that everything had happened many times. They are in a loop. A loop is the same thing or the same event happening over and over again. Their loop is also 8 days. After 8 days, a new 8 days will start. It goes on like this. That's why Daniel is in a hurry, so that Mora regains consciousness within 8 days. And today is the 7th day. So Daniel has to get Mora out of this fake reality no matter what. Elliot says, "Don't worry about me. I'm safe here." He gives a ring to Daniel and tells him to give it to Mora. Actually, it's their wedding ring. Then Daniel leaves there and returns to the ship. But when he doesn't see him on the ship, he realizes that Mora must be in his memory. So he enters the secret place under his bed and he meets Moria. Moria is now sure that Daniel is her husband. Daniel explains to her that this is all a trick of the eyes. There is a game going on here that we have to finish or to start again. To win this game, we need the key that Mora has hidden. We have to open the pyramid that our son had with the key, then everything will be over. Moria says, "I don't remember anything about the key." But now that Moria has learned a lot about her past, she remembers it easily after a while and says that the letter my brother sent had a ticket and a key with it. I put that key in my pendant and I still have that pendant. Moria also remembers that his father was asking about this key in the mental hospital. On the other hand, Sylvester takes out a device from somewhere in the ship and finds Elliot with the help of it. Sylvester goes into Moria's memory and kidnaps Elliot, which they have been trying to do in every loop so far. And finally today they have been able to kidnap Elliot. With this, the Black Pyramid is now in Henry's hands. Henry looks at those screens and says that all people lose their lives in simulations just for their emotions. If they had chosen logic over emotion, the Atleists could have saved their lives and it would have been much easier for them to get out of that simulation. In fact, even though no one else knows, Henry knows they are in a simulation. Even he is in a simulation and he wants to get out of it, which he can do. He needs the key. Henry takes the pyramid and opens it from the top. There was a key hole inside the pyramid. The key to which is with Mora. At this time, Mora and Daniel are in their ship. Daniel tries to change the functions of the ship with his device. He tries to destroy them. He also tells Moria that whenever simulations end, the ships go to a place in Gather, where we saw the captain, where there were many ships around him.
and the presence of many ships there indicates that they have been stuck in simulations many times. Daniel also says that when a simulation ends, everyone forgets everything, but somehow Daniel has saved himself with the help of the device, because of which everyone forgets everything but he remembers everything.
However, now their last task is to go to Elite and insert the key into the pyramid. Maura will wake up in the real world, but whenever she goes to her room and wants to go to the tunnel under the bed, she sees that the tunnel does not exist. At that moment, Henry announces from his office that all your efforts have failed. Time is up. Elite, now I want that key quickly or I will kill your son. Then the shutdown countdown starts on the ship. There is a countdown from 1 to 10 seconds, and a large empty space is created in the middle of the sea, and the ship enters the large portal there, and it reaches the place where all the ships are kept and where Captain Ike is. Then everyone sees that the captain has also reached here before them. Then we see a scene from the past when everything was normal. That is when Maura was not stuck in any simulation. While wandering outside the room, we see that green beetle. Elliot tells Maura that he named this green beetle Alfred. Let this insect always be his pet, but Maura convinces him that no one should be imprisoned against their will. Then he hugs Maura and Maura disappears from there, and everything around him goes dark. Elliot's dream is broken by the wake-up sound. He sees that he is in Henry's office. Henry takes him outside to show him a truth. His grandfather tells him that we are all trapped here. I am not responsible for this, but your mother is responsible. Everyone who is here came here of their own free will. Everyone had memories of pain and suffering in their minds, which they wanted to forget. But no matter how much we want to forget, painful memories never leave us completely. That's exactly what happens to everyone here. Then he takes his grandson to a room. There were 2 injections, one white and the other black. The black injection erases the memory, and the white injection brings back the memory. He gives his grandson the white injection. After that, we learn that Elliot had a terrible disease. Maura loved him very much, so he did not want to lose his son, and that's why she wanted to keep her son trapped in the simulation. Although Daniel forbade Maura from doing this, still Maura says if we do this, we can always be together. For this reason, she comes to the simulation world with her son, husband, and those people who were broken in their lives, whose dark past always bothered them. On the other hand, Daniel is seen going to the steam pressure machine with his device and hacking the entire simulation. Meanwhile, Maura tells everyone that she is the daughter of Henry, the owner of this shipping company. She tries to convince everyone that they are all in a simulation, but no one can remember how they got here. And no, they believe that it is a simulation. How will the people of 1899 understand this? Maura tells everyone that Daniel is trying to get everyone out of here. He is not bad. Meanwhile, Daniel tries to hack the ship's system, which causes the simulation world to collapse completely. Then the black material starts spreading rapidly, and everything on the ship starts melting, and everyone starts running away. And in this circle, one enters each other's memories. Then they return to that ship again. Seeing all this, Henry asks Maura to catch him, then Sebastian reaches Maura. He also had the same device as Daniel, with which he knocks the captain unconscious, and Maura is brought to his father Henry from there. Maura wants to know where her brother Kieran is. However, without answering, Henry takes the key. Then, everything restarts again. Henry tells him that it is not him but Maura herself who is the creator of this simulation. Then Henry gives him a black injection with the help of Elite, so as he forgets everything and goes back to Carburis. After this, Henry goes to the office and puts the key inside the pyramid and turns it. But even after turning the key, nothing happens. Seeing this, Henry realizes that Daniel has hacked the mainframe and changed the code that overrides the system. Meanwhile, the other passengers went to the engine room and watched the entire simulation being destroyed. On the other hand, when Maura regains consciousness, he finds himself next to that cover. He goes inside the cover and meets Daniel. Daniel tells Maura that he has changed all the important objects, and because of the black color injection that used to forget everything and go to the assignment after being applied, Maura arrived in the first simulation that Daniel and Maura made.
Actually, Daniel had good knowledge about hardware and software, and here is a big twist. Actually, when they come to the simulation, in the real world outside, his brother Kieran takes control of the entire system. Kieran is now controlling all the projects, and he has them trapped here as characters in a game. And Kieran sets the location on his own in a ship called Kerboris in 1899. However, before Kieran can drag Daniel's code, he gets the word to wake Maura up quickly. Daniel changes the code and replaces the black pyramid and key with Elliot's toy pyramid and wedding ring. Then Maura places the wedding ring in the pyramid, and immediately she wakes up. When she wakes up, Maura sees that she's on a spaceship called Prometheus. Some devices are attached to her head. Maura comes out of her escape. There's a large chamber there, where there are many people. These people were the ones who were on that ship. Inside the spaceship, all of these people were sleeping in the machine, and their lives were very difficult. Their dark past always bothered them, so they all chose the simulator world that Maura had created. But now they were stuck there. That is, their consciousness was still inside the simulation. Then they saw writing on the screen, Project Prometheus, Passenger 1423 Crow 550, and the date is October 19, 2099. That is when Kieran sends a text message, "Welcome to reality."
Okay, here I am explaining all the unanswered questions and small things in detail. Actually, the time is 2099. The world is almost destroyed due to global warming and war. So many spaceships have gone out in search of a stable and habitable planet, one of which is Maura's Prometheus, where people have gone on a long journey after sleeping in a skate. However, there were some people on the mission who wanted to forget their past, so they entered a simulation called Maura's Project Prometheus, and Kieran trapped them there. And actually, Kieran here is not a real human, but an AI, which Maura's Daniel created to run this simulation. But later Kieran took all the control into his own hands and trapped him in the simulation created by Maura. The only proof that Kieran is an AI is that when Kieran messaged him, he was typing an alphabet. And this happens when an artificial intelligence shows a computer program. In Irish, Kieran means dark one or little dark one. That's why the extra world outside the game, that is the place where Henry was, that is where he was trapped, is dark. And the destruction everywhere indicates the destruction of the world. At first we thought that Henry was a villain, but later we learned that he, the poor thing, is also trapped here, and he also wants to get out. So since Maura didn't like her father, Kieran gives him a difficult task for Maura inside the game. That is, Maura has to insert the key to the pyramid before Henry does. If Henry inserts the key to the pyramid, Maura will never be able to get out again. That's why Daniel Elliot also hides the pyramid in that grave, so that Henry doesn't find the pyramid and Elliot can't be caught and blackmailed by Maura. The black object spreading inside the ship indicated the capture of Kieran or its dark AI system. The location of the hardware from Kieran's server was inside this big pyramid. That is, it is like the main gate. So the key had to be inserted inside the small pyramid that is inside the mainframe. And here is a big twist, that Elliot is not a human either, but a digital human. That is, Elliot does not exist. The proof of this is that at first Maura told the captain that he could not have a child. Maura only wanted to be with his child, so he created his own digital child and started living with him in the simulation. And that green beetle or a green bug is a software bug, a software tiger that can open the door or back door of any simulation. We will know in the second season how many of the passenger crew members in the ship were real humans and how many were fake characters created by there. However, it is clear that a familiar character, Elliot, was created, and there is no one but Alec. Because from the beginning to the very end, everyone has been shown a little bit of the dark side, but Elliot was not shown. Also, when everyone was in each other's state, at one point Lingy sees Alec falling from a whale into a black liquid, which indicates that he is a character created by Kieran. The biggest question here is whether Maura actually came out of the simulation or 2099 is also part of a simulation. From me, it doesn't seem like Maura is 100% out of the simulation yet. The biggest proof of this is the ending shot. In the ending shot, we could see the same triangle in Maura's eyes that we saw in the eyes of the passenger of Cerberus after the dream was broken. That is, Maura just woke up from one simulation to another. Before leaving, Daniel promised Maura that he would always be with her. However, we don't see Daniel anywhere in this section of the episode. There is another pot open with Maura. Maybe that pot belongs to Daniel, or whose it is we will find out in the second season. In addition, we understand that, like Maura, if Hynio wants to get out of the game, he will have to put the key of the pyramid in the pyramid. That is, whoever wants to get out, then he will be able to wake up. But how will the rest of the passengers wake up?
Or do they each have a key? We'll also find out this in the next season. Why did Mora call Kiran her brother? Maybe the captain of their Prometheus spaceship is actually Kiran, who has created an AI in his name. And will Mora be able to get everyone out of the simulation? We will find out all this in season 2, but unfortunately season 2 has been cancelled. So we will never be able to see what happens next. For now, we have figured out 50 or 60% of the mystery. So here is today's video.